If race doesn't exist, why are you watching this video? And maybe more importantly, how does racism exist? Why are there racists if race doesn't exist? I think that's something we need to explore. Here's what inspired it. I made a video called DNA Test Results. Race is a social construct. Only genotypes and phenotypes exist. That was the video that I made. And, you know, people have been commenting that for as long as I've had this channel, for right a little over a year now. People have been saying that as I talk about DNA test results, as I talk about race and ethnicity. And the thing is, I've never disagreed with that. The concept that basically we perceive race and therefore it exists. But really outside of our believing in it, it doesn't actually exist. Totally cool with that line of thinking. I'm totally cool with saying, you know what? Race doesn't exist. It's phenotypes, genotypes, that's it. I believe that in my heart. But again, why are you watching a video about race right now if it doesn't exist? It's almost like this. In my lifetime, I have heard people who say they are atheists and then say, I hate God. How can you hate something that doesn't exist? And I think similarly, when it comes to race, I'll acknowledge that it's made up. But yet so many people believe it's real. So many people hurt and judge each other because they're of a different race. And then, especially here in America, there's this celebration of race, racial diversity even. We celebrate that. That's a lot of what this channel is about, actually, is for us to say, hey, this is the opposite of racism. We're celebrating all the different things that we are, and we're talking about it, and we're understanding each other, and we're understanding that culture is built into those segments of perceived race that we are, and it's part of our identity. So for Americans to take that away from us, I think that's part of the problem, is that for us, especially as Americans, culture is so deeply rooted into our ethnic backgrounds and our race that to take that away is an attack on our identity, whatever that is. And I think here in America, especially with Black Americans, that's very obvious. I keep talking about the Rachel divide that I watched on Netflix, and where basically the takeaway from that, watching that, was after a woman who had no African DNA led people to believe that she was at least biracial, finally admitted she was not of African descent at all. And people in that documentary who were Black, they were saying, how can you say that you're Black when you don't know our struggle? So something that I learned from that documentary is, here in America, many Black Americans are not defined so much from their amount of African DNA as they are being perceived as a Black person. And that struggle helps define them and earning the right to be called a Black person or a Black American or biracial, whatever the right term is, whatever people use and however they feel most comfortable identifying. So if race doesn't exist, why are people subscribing to a channel, this YouTube channel where that's mainly what I talk about? How does racism exist? You know, I think it's interesting, especially in American history, what's happened is, you know, we've had such a rough time with racism, such a racist history. And as in the last couple of decades, things have gotten a lot better. So it's almost like, well, what can we do to help overcome this and try to bridge that gap and heal those wounds? We can start positively identifying and celebrating whatever our race is and not be ashamed of it. But then it gets ironic for people who are white, because there's no such thing as a proud white man, right? Like, I can't say, I'm a proud white man in America. You can't say that. Our culture doesn't allow it. You can say, I'm a proud Chinese man in America. I'm a proud Chinese American. You know, I'm a proud Black woman. You can say that. But you can't be proud to be white, and especially male. Like, that doesn't exist. So it's complicated and it's complex, and some things we're never going to find resolve for. But part of my motivation in doing this channel and making these videos is to have some messy conversations. ones that, especially if you're not American, really might even seem racist because I'm so explicit in talking about race and ethnicity, even though it doesn't exist. But have you ever seen that movie, The Skeleton Key? You find out that that curse only existed if you believed it did. Or the same thing like with Santa Claus, maybe the opposite. Santa Claus only exists as long as you believe he does, right? It's one of those things, and I think that's how race is. And I don't think race will ever go away because people have been affected by it too much. People who have been victimized because of their perceived race now are celebrating their race. And then people like me who are just kind of a little bit of a lot of different things. I don't know, there's DNA tests now, so I think it's fun to find out what this is and maybe understand certain things, like the fact that for nearly 10 years I haven't eaten pork or shellfish. And I made that decision before I found out that my mom is like 15.2% Sephardic Jewish and about 14% West Asian, but it's like Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and those groups of people historically have not eaten pork or shellfish. But I found that out after the fact, officially, that's it. See, maybe it's a coincidence, and maybe not. It's fascinating. I want to explore that. To me, that's not racist to explore that. It's a celebration. So there's a little bit of a dance to it as we try to sort all this out. Race exists because we continue to believe it does. And I don't think we're ever willing to stop doing that. What are your thoughts on that? Race doesn't exist, but we make a big deal that it does. We make it part of our identity and our culture. So to take that away means that we go away as individuals, right?